It's July 2016, and with the release of Pokemon Go, some people say it was the closest to world peace that we ever got. People explored their neighborhoods catching Pokemon from the first generation, but could find themselves eventually catching brand new Pokemon, meeting these new friends that they had missed out on as they grew up and separated from the franchise due to work, school, or general adult life, all while being able to casually play anywhere at any time at no cost and minimal time sunk. But as it turns out, this explosion of releasing Pokemon throughout our homeworld would result in trespassing, the discovery of dead bodies, and even heavily planned out assaults and armed robberies. Howdy there, I'm Krillic, and we're taking a very different approach to this video than usual. I will warn parents now, if it wasn't clear, while I won't be showing any graphic media, this might not be the best for young ones to listen to. For full transparency, I do have a forensic science degree, meaning I at least have some formal education and insight into these things, even though they probably won't apply all that much, considering they're mainly reports that have all been closed, but I am still excited and mortified to tell you about the horrors I've discovered while digging through the strange phenomena that surrounded Pokemon Go. For early clarification, this is not me blaming Pokemon nor Niantic for these happenings, nor should they be blamed, as humanity does have a tendency to abuse any given system available to them in order to take advantage of others. If you somehow managed to live under a rock for the past decade, you might not even know what Pokemon Go is. I have no idea how you managed to do that, but you might be one of the best CIA agents known to man if that is the case, or technically, I guess you would be one of the worst because you should know things, whatever. Nevertheless, Pokemon Go was created and released as stated in July of 2016, starting in Australia, New Zealand, and the United States, slowly releasing worldwide throughout July and August of that year. This game had captured the hearts and minds of many individuals, with video footage from Reddit user and YouTube channel Breakify. They state the following that sums up a great big idea behind the massive craze that happened at the release of this mobile game. This video takes us back to the release day of Pokemon Go in Japan, which took place on July 6, 2016. As the game was launched, it quickly captivated a wide audience of players who were eager to explore the real world while catching their favorite Pokemon. Of course, who wouldn't want to do that? My favorite is Gengar. You tell me that my boy can be found somewhere in some haunted hotel in real life? You bet your sweet Bippy I'm going after that. But as we continue, at the time of filming this, I was astonished to see people of all ages and professions engrossed in playing Pokemon Go on the bustling streets of Shibuya. Witnessing such a diverse group of individuals enjoying the game together was a surreal experience that left me in awe. Looking back, it's still quite mind-blowing to think about how this mobile game brought people from all walks of life together in a shared virtual world. I hope you enjoyed this footage as much as I enjoyed capturing it, slightly tipsy as I may have been at the time. LOL. Now, it does feel really weird to me to look at that video and look at the phones of other people, but that might be my American privacy kicking in really, really hard. At the same time, I nearly had a heart attack looking at the Pikachu costume guy who just comes in like old filthy Frank, face taking up the whole screen for just a moment. Now, other people described it as, I remember being up late at night with my friend and his older brother. We were stuck at home since it released at night for us, and we were instantly hooked. We all ran around our house trying to figure out how to play and how to level up. The next day, his brother drove us around, and it was like the world changed overnight. There were people everywhere outside playing, and we all laughed as we walked past people, not admitting we were on Pokemon Go, but all mutually knowing what we were all doing. Everyone was outside, everyone was playing. It was like a fever dream. It feels like somebody just wrote world peace into a novel, like on the spot, and it was just like either an early writing student in college who's like, and then they all clapped, or and then world peace was restored. Like, it feels like that, but it kind of was that way to some capacity. I actually personally remember this, and even remember recording multiple videos back in the day of me going around the cities that I lived in at the time, driving and walking around with old friends. Actually, I didn't drive. I didn't have a license, and so I had an old friend who would drive. Either way, catching Pokemon and trying to hunt down even a Snorlax in the next city over. We were like running around a grocery store multiple different times because we crossed the crosswalk, and it was back when you could not figure out how close you were, and they had a very vague system of to how close or far away a Pokemon was, so you're just kind of stuck running around a ton until you can find your Pokemon, or it just flat out disappears. Now, we didn't run into too many people ourselves, but I do remember this was while I was in high school, and with the Pokestops being at restaurants, schools, memorial statues, and any really other landmark you could imagine, you were bound to run into someone. Funny enough, my old downtown area has plenty of shops, a library, and was right by an old marina. Hopefully that doesn't dox everything too much, but then again, it's not like I'm giving my old address. People will be okay. And it was the place where a lot of events happened. If I go back there today, I almost guarantee that the Pokestops in that area are still constantly switching as people battle for supremacy, probably because there's like a comic book shop and a couple other things kind of like in that general area, just a line of small shops, businesses, food places, you name it. Couple nerds here and there, you sprinkle them in, and of course it's like, well, I'm on my break, might as well take the gym again. Now, as a side note, I was Team Instinct. I love Zapdos, it's my favorite of the 3 legendary birds, and I just kind of vibed with it. Now, you could also only see Pokestops and Pokemon within a certain radius, all while it would show you silhouettes of other Pokemon in the area. Because of this, you were encouraged to move and chase them down, figuring out where they just might be hiding, like I stated. This not only served as a great motivator to move outside, but it was also a fun way to exercise as you get lost in the process of looking for your favorite Pokemon somewhere out there in the world. This all culminates in more foot traffic, bigger crowds, more people in general existing in common spaces. People were exploring, checking out new places, finding out that there were cafes and new favorite locations to visit unrelated to Pokemon that they never knew of without the help of this funny little mobile game. And this is where the root to our problems really begin, because the more people there are, the higher chance there is for trouble. Let's start small with trespassing. According to Ziegler law, perhaps the most common unlawful act that has been associated with playing Pokemon Go is trespassing. In the beginning, it seemed there were no limits to where players may go to chase Pokemon, especially rare ones. People were caught trespassing on private lands owned by the federal government. Cue Area 51 footage and the whole raid on that, even though that was completely unrelated, and actually, hold on. I'm pretty sure there were some people who were playing it. If I could find footage of that, I'm showing it on screen, of course. But either way, lands owned by federal government and more. From private homes to Arlington National Cemetery and even to the Holocaust Museum. Nope, we're moving on. Complaints were arising of people trespassing solely to play the game. Perhaps many people did not realize that such trespassing was against the law and could result in serious consequences if they were arrested. Thank you, great-great-grandfather, for blessing me with this perfect 3-star shiny Tyranitar. I will always love you. I actually ended up getting a Tyranitar that was a Shadow Tyranitar, or rather Shadow Larvitar. It was perfect. It was in the meta, I found out months afterwards, and I don't know the meta whatsoever, or even if that still is the meta. I do not care. But BBC News even reports that British Transport Police recorded 2 incidents of children trespassing on railways while playing the game, while several drivers have been spotted playing the game behind the wheel. Again, horrible things to be doing. Good luck. You're gonna catch an electric type while on the rails, then get hit by the train. Throw in, what is that stupid worm that everyone hates? Orthworm. Literally just throw in Orthworm slamming into a bunch of, don't say that on, I might get demonetized if I say that. Here's the thing though, I want to make clear based on my education and my understanding of human psychology. These people are the types that would do this anyway. What this game did, and other apps or even events do, is give open opportunity for people to make mistakes or indulge in the more reckless side. I say this because while there's a direct correlation between things like a higher uptick of trespassing or any other things we'll talk about later occurring, correlation does not mean causation. Meaning that just because it happened more often doesn't mean that it is the tried and true case of why it happened. It was just an opportunity and could be switched out with other opportunities. It's like giving a knife to 100 people in a locked room and not saying anything. You're not telling them not to stab each other. You're not telling them to stab each other. Either way, there's a good chance someone is gonna get stabbed. Like, you just put a bunch of unpredictable humans within a room and gave them easy access to murder. If even one person has thought about what it feels like to stab someone, then they might just commit the crime, which apparently it feels like when you stab raw pork or something like that through the skin. Either way, simultaneously, by not giving instructions and opening the situation up, you too are held liable. As such, when Pokemon Go was first released, the notes on not trespassing, wearing visible clothing, and staying in safe areas were things that were made clear from the very beginning amongst a number of different things. Lawyer Wassam said the test for whether a potential litigant has a case against a game creator at the moment seems clear. There needs to be proof of physical harm done to them or their property. They then need to be able to link that action directly to the company that created the game. In this sense, Niantic has been careful. At the beginning of each game, Pokemon Go instructs players not to trespass on private property, which means while a player who trespasses could potentially be prosecuted, the company itself can't, said Wassam. As global property laws were tested to the extreme, from the Thomson Reuters Foundation, we have the following. Within 1 week in July, the Sydney suburb of Rhodes was transformed from a quiet neighborhood to what resident Joyce Wong described as a place of carnage, with hundreds of people wandering around like zombies. The car hooting noise was incessant. On weekends, you felt like you were under siege, and the rubbish and litter all over the public areas was terrible, she told the Thomas Reuters Foundation by email from her home in the Australian city. I don't know if that's 100% true. That just feels like an over-exaggeration, like, oh my god, they're everywhere! They're playing that devil game, that Pokemon Go, the pocket monsters! Like, it just feels like the old craze of Pokemon all over again, where people saw it as evil. Same thing kind of goes for D&D for that matter, and it's just a revival of it because people don't understand. I am sure, as we are going to get to later on, there are plenty of people who cause a lot of trouble, but to say like the entire city is full of zombie people that are leaving trash everywhere, I don't know. Experts say the intersection between virtual reality and property law is not clear, and nobody really knows what the rights of property owners are when digital characters or structures appear on their land. That feels like the dumbest sentence I have read out loud, and trust me, I've said some really stupid things on purpose, but this one hurts. How can you look at a oddish and say, oh gee, there's a Pokemon I really want, and nobody's going for it. It's on someone else's land, but that land isn't real inside my game, so I can go get it. Like, whatever. Something tells me that by the end of this, I'm going to have an aneurysm from sheer stupidity, but as it turns out, this is only part of the thought process, and the other side is a bit stupid as well in some capacity when we look at the legal sense of it. A lot of people are convinced that because they own their property, they ought to be able to control the virtual space, said Brian Wassam. Again, a lawyer at Michigan's Warner, Norcross, and Judd LLP with expertise in augmented reality. Again, weird sentence. I think they're going to come to the answer, which I have come to, which is no, you cannot, he said in a phone interview. He said land rights only apply when there has been something or someone physically present on the property. However, this distinction is becoming blurred as more and more examples of the power the digital world can hold over specific geographical spots emerge. So effectively, it does not matter that you own your house in physical property. Your house appearing in virtual reality is not yours because you yourself are not in virtual reality. I wonder how that works with VR. Like when you look at like VR chat and stuff like that. God, I hate that I had to say that out loud. That's a cursed platform in and of itself. Nevertheless, I wonder how that actually works and how people have been looking at that, because what, you can purchase items and you can't own the locations themselves, but you can have groups of people, and then it gets blurrier and blurrier as time goes on, I'm sure. As I continue with what he was stating, this distinction is becoming blurred as more and more examples of the power the digital world can hold over specific geographical spots emerge. This then begins to dig into Pokestops and the fact that as a player, you can request locations to be made into Pokestops. Those locations are the hot spots of Pokemon Go, allowing players to not only pass by for items, but with a refresh rate of 5 minutes, you could stay in one spot all day, especially if multiple Pokestops are within reach. Now, people flock to these stops for more than just items, but also because you can place down lures, turning the Pokestop into a bonanza of a buffet for Pokemon to appear in much higher numbers for 30 minutes or longer, depending on the specific type of lure, while you're sitting there eating your favorite sandwich at your favorite sandwich shop. Also, forgot to mention that eventually, if you are moving faster than 20 miles per hour, Pokestops do not work or aren't supposed to, meaning it should be taking care of the driving problem, but, you know, there's always ways around it that I don't condone for legal reasons. Now, hopefully, you're starting to see the basis for where all of our problems will start kicking in, because these are all the catalysts in which crimes start being committed, people start getting hurt, and people are lured into harmful scenarios by people who have used this app as a tool for harm. Let's get the final minor incidents and goofs worth mentioning out of the way. In more specific, I have a nice little collection of incidents from BBC to start. These are police calls that have been brought in. In Cheshire, concerns were raised about children walking over graves in a cemetery as they took part in the augmented reality craze. West Mercia police recorded a road incident, or rather road accident, while playing Pokemon, but declined to elaborate. In another traffic-related incident, officers in Surrey discovered 9 cars parked across a junction while looking for Pokemon. Yeah, thanks, just block the way to work. It's bad enough when I have to leave for the house for work and there's a train stopping me when I'm already running out of the door late. Like, if I had a row of cars stopping me, I might just pop one of their tires. You know what? No, I am taking one of their tires. 1 tire from each and every car. Do you know how expensive tires are? Do you know how little these people are paying attention? I could probably take all 4 tires without them noticing, but I want insurance to give them hassle over it all. I might be a little bit meaner in my jokes than normal, and I will not apologize for any of them. Be prepared. If you're in any of my streams, you know how it goes. Though on a much lighter note that isn't related to crime, Japanese gymnast Kohei Uchimura learned that lesson the hard way about watching your mobile data after he racked up a mobile phone bill of nearly $5,000 while in Rio for the 2016 Summer Olympic Games. Luckily, Uchimura's cell phone carrier agreed to reduce the bill to a mere $30 a day for unlimited data. You do not get that high of a bill from just playing for an hour or 2. Legitimately, the game takes so little data. He either must have been playing for an incredibly long time for the entire week or something along those lines. Literally hours upon hours upon hours at like the highest resolution or something along those lines, or he just had terrible providers. I would say the fine print is the killer, but we all know it isn't, and cell phone providers will just throw a knife into your back whenever they can. Meanwhile, in Utah, Ethan Goodwin, 17, of Tremonton, was slapped with a trespassing ticket that he worries could cost him up to $200 after he and a couple of friends went on an early morning Pokemon chase at an abandoned grain silo. He managed to catch 3 creatures. Brother isn't even trying at this point. He is quoted as saying, "I wouldn't say it was worth it, but I would say I'm glad I have the Pokemon I have now," he joked. He added, "It's a dumb game. Really, really stupid. Don't get me wrong, I've done some stupid stuff, but to say, yeah, I'm happy to have this Pokemon now is not how my brain would work. Throw that thing in a pneumatic press, turn it into candy, not worth it at all. I'm sorry." Also, can you imagine if he had like a lighter, walked into that Cyto, boom, explosion, gone. One woman told WPXI TV in Western Pennsylvania that her 15-year-old daughter was hit by a car while playing the game and crossing a busy highway. The girl was hospitalized with an injured collarbone and foot, as well as cuts and bruises, said her mother, Tracy Nolan. Lord almighty. At least she's alive, but how do you genuinely not realize you're crossing a highway? The noise level on a highway, unless it's a country one, is impossible to ignore. I cannot get within, 100 feet without looking up and seeing the 30 cars driving at 60 to 70 miles per hour. How do you miss it while walking across the highway itself? Aren't there barriers? Don't you literally have to climb over a barrier at that point? Half of them don't even have sidewalks. How did you get there? Captain Michael Fowler with the Hanahan, South Carolina police said his department in the city of about 20,000 has gotten a few suspicious activity reports related to Pokemon Go, including multiple calls from a woman who feared for her safety as she watched cars go in and out of a church parking lot across from her house. "I didn't know what was going on. The last time I heard about Pokemon was back in the 90s, Lynn Menges, 59, said. "Harold, there's an illegal drug smuggling happening at the church across the street." I'll give her a pass, though. When I reach the ripe age of 59, I'm sure I would not have heard about the 70th season of Yu-Gi-Oh! At that point. I'm just already so out of the loop as is, even though I love the idea of playing it, that the second someone says an 8-syllable name from that freaking game, I'm gonna think that they're summoning the devil in my living room. Also, I imagine somebody catching Giratina or Vivillon at a church, which, Vivian, for clarification, is Pokemon number 666, which would be hilarious. Name it the Antichrist and move on. In Lake Ronkonkoma, New York, police on Long Island are investigating an armed robbery in which they say a cell phone was stolen from a man playing the popular Pokemon Go game on his smartphone. Suffolk County Police say the 19-year-old man was walking in Lake Ronkonkoma while playing the game Wednesday evening when a car with at least 3 people pulled up alongside him. Police say one of the passengers told the victim to give him his cell phone, and when the victim hesitated, another passenger showed him a gun and demanded the phone. This took a fast turn. I wasn't paying attention to the beginning. I thought this was just going to be a snatch and run, not a, event at gunpoint. Oops. The victim then handed over the phone and took off. No arrests have been made, and the investigation is ongoing, at least at the time of writing. I've had people who act like they need help in busy areas wanting to borrow a phone. No. The answer is always no, and it will always be no. And I'm telling you right now, you are to say no. When a phone needs to be borrowed in a busy city, they can go to a store or a public service like a police station. You give your phone, they run. It's as simple as that. Easiest trick in the book. Now, in Dunmore, Pennsylvania, we have another story. 3 Pokemon Go players got locked inside a cemetery in Pennsylvania while hunting. That was a Freudian slip. Hunting virtual monsters and needed the police to help let them out. Police in Dunmore told the Times-Tribune of Scranton the trio didn't realize the cemetery closed at dusk. They called police just after 9:30 p.m. Tuesday when they discovered the cemetery gates were locked. You couldn't just jump over? You couldn't, literally, it's like maybe a 10-foot wall at most? Literally, lift each other up. Get out. Why couldn't you manage that? I don't know. Maybe they were actually, I didn't say the age of these individuals. Hold on. They're literally 19 years old. You're telling me they could not have managed to help each other out? Were their bones made out of fiberglass and their skin made out of paper? So that way any wind breeze would knock them over, send them flying into the air so they didn't want to risk getting off of the ground? What's going on there? Dunmore Police Chief Sal Marchese said the 3 won't be charged. At least one was an adult. No other details about the gamers were released. You cannot sit here and tell me there was an official police report that used the word gamers. I can feel the cringe settling in and my blood evaporating as I'm not angry, it's just disappearing from the sheer amount of age. Another questionable act of a Pokemon Go player occurred when a man with several active arrest warrants approached a police station because it was a Pokemon gym. Apparently, police were well aware of the man's warrant status, and when they spotted him, they placed him under arrest. In addition, another police department told the media that a very rare Pokemon was in their booking area and then invited the individuals on their most wanted list to come catch the creature. Hey, I know that you just robbed about 3 different banks and got away with it, but if you want this solid, shiny, no one wants a shiny Dragonite. What am I talking about? It's a non-shiny Dragonite. You want to come get it? It's sitting here. It's right in our precinct, right in the middle of it. In fact, it's in jail cell number 16. If you could go directly to that one, I guarantee there's a Dragonite waiting for you. Authorities say 2 Pokemon Go players were so distracted by the game that they fell off an ocean bluff in Southern California, suffering moderate injuries. Encinitas firefighters reportedly said the men climbed through a fence to reach the cliff area. One fell 50 feet down the side of the unstable bluff, and the other fell about 90 feet to the beach. I have fallen down into a river, legitimately. I get it. If the floor gives out from under you, everything's crumbling away, and you fall, that's one thing. But to fall where it is a 50 or 90 foot drop and still survive, and you sit there and you go, I just didn't realize how close to death I really was. You have a problem. When I get near a cliff, I am incredibly aware. I almost said woefully aware. I am just incredibly alert regarding the edge of that cliff. Because one, I have the call of the void where I'm just like, well, it would be kind of interesting if I just jumped off right now. Whereas the other part of my brain says, do not do that. That's a really bad idea. Not today, not ever. I want to live. Thank you very much. So I don't understand how someone could be on their phone, pay no attention to the cliff's edge, and just done. That is some ridiculous Looney Tunes level of logic. They walk off the cliff and don't even fall until they look up and see they're halfway across the ocean. And of course, while there's plenty of scenarios like this that all end up the same, we start to get into the bodies that were found by players. In Riverton, Wyoming, authorities have identified the man found dead in a central Wyoming river by a woman playing the popular smartphone game Pokemon Go. the report states. The Riverton Ranger reported that 28-year-old Jeffrey Day's body was found floating in the Wind River near the city of Riverton on Friday. Authorities are awaiting the results of an autopsy to determine the cause of the Arapaho man's death, but say it appears to have been accidental and could be a drowning. Shayla Wiggins said she had been playing the new Pokemon game, which sends players to real-world locations to capture virtual creatures, when she spotted the body in the water near a bridge. The incident comes as police in Missouri say 4 teens used Pokemon Go to lure victims to a location and rob them. We'll get to that one later because, yes, again, the lures weren't just used for Pokemon, they were used for people too. The extended story, as it appeared later and was solved, goes as follows. 19-year-old Shayla Wiggins from Wyoming was told to find a Pokemon in a natural water source, but instead found a man's corpse. I was walking towards the bridge along the shore when I saw something in the water, she told County 10 News. I had to take a second look and I realized it was a body. Shayla, who's living in a trailer park for the summer with her mom, said she'd jumped over a fence to get to the Pokemon shown on her map. It was pretty shocking, she said. I didn't really know what to do at first, but I called 911 right away and they came really quickly. The body was found in the Big Wind River under the Wyoming Highway 789 bridge. The local police department says there doesn't appear to be any foul play involved. The death appears to be accidental in nature and possibly that of a drowning, said the Vermont County Sheriff's Office in a statement. There is no evidence at this time that would indicate foul play. Evidence located at the scene has led investigators to believe the man went into the river at the location he was found. That's got to be a nice chunk of trauma right there for the kid. Hey, what did you do last summer? Oh, me? I found a dead body with a Squirtle standing on top of it. 3 women playing Pokemon Go and hunting for virtual fictional characters found a dead body Thursday near a Greek creek bed in a San Diego park, police said. The Go players were walking the trails and playing the augmented reality game about 3 p.m. in Marion Bear Memorial Park when they stumbled on the body of a man who had been dead for quite some time, said Officer Travis Easter, spokesman for the San Diego Police Department. That's not part of the game, Easter said. That's not part of the game? Well, no shit, that's not part of the game. We're not out here digging up fossil Pokemon and seeing chunks of meat hanging off them or anything. Whatever. Continuing with the story, April Lopez told KGTV 10 News that she froze when she saw bones, then looked at her sister and friend and said, I think I just found a dead body. There were bones. How were there bones? How long was this person dead? The fact that it's sitting in the middle of a park. Did they get transplanted there? I don't know, because the rest of the story isn't really told and I couldn't find anything regarding it. But you're telling me that somebody died. Their bones were transplanted in this area, probably, because how can a dead body be in a park for that long and nobody smell it, unless the entire city smells like decay, in which case we have a whole different issue. Please take care of your sewers. I don't know what else to say. That suddenly a body that's half decayed with bones showing is in the middle of a park, probably hiding in a bush or whatever. How is that even possible? Meanwhile, in New Braunfels, Texas, a man and woman found a man's body Thursday while searching for digital creatures using the Pokemon Go app in the historic New Braunfels Cemetery. According to the Comal County Sheriff's Office, the body was discovered at the St. Joseph Cemetery on FM 482 near Schwab Road off Interstate 35. I know they mean a non-buried body, but I can't help but imagine people walking into a cemetery, seeing a dead body, and they are just terrified. You mean they bury people here? Yes. What did you think a cemetery was? Sheriff's officials on Friday identified the victim as Christopher Robert Lowe, 34. Investigators said it appeared Lowe had been killed recently because of suspicious circumstances. His death was being investigated as a homicide. Investigators told the New Braunfels Herald Zeitung, whatever that word is, that the search for Pokemon had nothing to do with the death. An autopsy was ordered. They always have to close with the Pokemon had nothing to do with the death because they know for a fact if they don't say that after the titles they like to throw out, they might get hit with a defamation suit or something of the like, which understandably so. It's actually wild to consider that so many of these cases were actually within the first weeks or even just within the first week of the game's release, as is the case with a player from Nashua, New Hampshire, who found the body of a dead person in a salmon brook at around 2 p.m., after which he called the police. I don't know much about the game, but apparently they are looking in obscure places for something that has to do with this game, which is what brought the person who found the victim to that area. I feel like I had a miniature stroke reading that. Thank you, Nashua Police Lieutenant Robert Gigi? We're gonna go with Gigi, as he told CBS Boston. Authorities said the man's death does not appear to be suspicious in nature, while no details about the victim have been released. There was an app actually similar to this that all people could use that would take you to a random destination, and people swore up and down that it was directly constantly leading them to murder sites or to dead bodies. This app was called Randonautica, which just used, apparently, on a quick search, a bunch of random number generators within a certain radius to give you a location you could go to. This went as far as then TikTokers finding a body in a suitcase. I know I should be more respectful in this scenario, but before I'm faced with the results and can't bring myself to make a lighthearted joke, I'm wondering if it was cartoonishly bent around some sort of Tetris game. Actually, while I was at the store today, I'm pretty sure I saw a magazine that said somebody else was found in a briefcase. I wonder if those are related. I'm not adding that to this video. I'm supposed to do Pokemon videos normally. This is a stretch. The story goes as follows, though. In June, 3 teenagers were out making TikTok videos when they found a pair of suitcases washed up on a Seattle beach. Inside were the bodies of Jessica Lewis, 35, and Austin Cash Wenner, 27. They had been shot. The video of their discovery went viral. Gina Jaschke, Jessica's aunt, has repeatedly asked TikTok to remove the video, which has had 29 million views, which that is heartbreaking. Just imagine having somebody die, the video goes viral, and they're like, no, we're making ad revenue off of this. I don't think we're going to respect the deaths of your family members. But TikTok, of course, refused at the time, saying it doesn't breach their guidelines. It doesn't breach your guidelines to have dead bodies in a video? I'm sorry, but in a courtroom, I was trained to not show full color images of a cadaver, right? Of an individual who had passed away. You are supposed to use black and white images a lot of the time, because what they used to do was they would use the full color images and it would be shock value. Shock value then sways the public mind, throws them one way or another, without immediately giving them the full thought process to be able to make the decision on, hey, this person did or didn't do this based on all the other evidence. They see a dead body, a human being sends a dead body, and they take the most direct result of, I want this done, I want this over with, I don't care what happens. And maybe they do, but they ask for it to end in the most indirect way possible, which is to just indict the individual right in front of them, right? And also, there's a big part of this in the idea that you are supposed to be incredibly respectful towards the individuals who are victims, whether they are alive or not anymore. The family had also set up a fundraiser at the time, offering a reward for information on the murders. Based on there not being an update beyond TikTok taking the video down, I am going to assume the person behind the crime has not been found. But again, that is horrifying, because bodies, this might be a little too much, just do not bend that easily. I won't say anything further than that, and we're going to move on. Which, let's move on to the Pokestop incidents. People have been lured to Pokestops where they were mugged, attacked, and in some cases, people tried to kidnap children. Some teens in O'Fallon, Missouri were targeted by robbers using the game's lure module to seek potential victims. On July 10th, the O'Fallon Police Department posted the following to their Facebook page. This morning at approximately 2 a.m., we responded to the report of an armed robbery near the intersection of Highway K and Feast Road. We were able to locate 4 suspects occupying a black BMW a short time later and recover a handgun. These suspects are suspected of multiple armed robberies both in St. Louis and St. Charles counties. It is believed these suspects targeted their victims through the Pokemon GO smartphone application. Again, criminals will use whatever method they can in order to carry out their crime. The second you throw a new toy into their box, they're going to test it out. They're going to see what they can get away with, especially when it's just released, when it's early on, and there are no new methods to respond to it. Police believe the suspects added a beacon near a Pokestop in their location, which could lure more players nearby, KMOV reported. The suspects were located by O'Fallon police after responding to an armed robbery call around 2 a.m. in St. Charles County. The suspects were sitting inside a vehicle, police said. A handgun was recovered from the suspects, and at this time, it is not known what items were stolen from the victims. The Pokemon Company International and Niantic Inc. released a statement on that Sunday evening in regards to the alleged robberies. We are aware that some incidents have occurred involving fans playing Pokemon Go. We encourage all people playing Pokemon Go to be aware of their surroundings and to play with friends when going to new or unfamiliar places, the statement said. Please remember to be safe and alert at all times. We are humbled by the overwhelmingly positive response to Pokemon Go and greatly appreciate the support of our fans. Though, I will also throw out that not everything is bad. 2 men playing Pokemon Go helped police catch an attempted murder suspect in Fullerton on Tuesday. Seth Ortega and Javier Sock, both Marines, were playing the game in a park near Wilshire and Pomona Avenues in downtown Fullerton at about 10:30 a.m. Sock said his game froze and he happened to look up and noticed a man carrying a red plastic rose. Ortega and Sock said they watched the man approach a woman and her 3 children. The woman and her children quickly ran away from the man, according to Ortega and Sock. The mother called 911, while Ortega and Sock kept a watchful eye on the man. Ortega and Sock said they watched the man approach another woman and her 2 children, who were also playing Pokemon Go. We see the gentleman go approach them again. At this point, me and my roommate start walking across the street, and the gentleman actually walks up and touches one of the children, one of the boys, his toe, and starts walking his way up to the knee. No, I'm good. I need help. I'm gonna drink some coffee first. Hold on. That is terrible. At this point, I'm running across the street, and a gentleman who was walking down the street does the same thing. Ortega continued. The children ran to their mother as Ortega and Sock stayed with the man until officers arrived. Authorities said the man was arrested for child annoyance, and it was discovered that he had an outstanding warrant for attempted murder in Sonoma, California. Police said the man would be extradited to Sonoma for the attempted murder warrant. This is just shy of being a Scooby-Doo villain situation, with all due respect. Would have gotten away for it too if it weren't for those meddling kids, even though they were adults, Marines, effectively, which, good on them. It takes a lot to actually even speak up and do the right thing in the right way like this, instead of, ignoring it like society often tries to train us to do, to just look the other way and keep going. Now, things get a little ridiculous, not just when people are trespassing. In fact, some people refuse to leave at all. Such is the case within Florida because, of course, it's Florida. Florida police used a stun gun on a player who allegedly resisted arrest after officers tried to clear a Tampa park after closing time. Police allege that everyone except 20-year-old David T. Mastrotor, I'm not saying that word. What is that hyphenated name? No, I don't care. You got arrested. I don't care right now anyway. Complied with officers' commands to leave the park. Basically, everyone but this dude refused to comply to the officer's commands to leave the park. You got arrested for a stupid thing. You got tased for a stupid thing. I'm not even going to bother with your name. Though, allegedly, this individual grabbed an officer's arm, spurring the use of the stun gun. This guy was reportedly arrested without further incident. In what world do you think grabbing an officer's arm was the right move? Keep your hands off my wheels, sir! And then he's just tased on the spot. Is this the part, though, where I make a stupid joke of saying this guy is a water type since the electric attack was super effective? Technically, I just made the joke, and you can boo me in the comments as much as you wish. A Toronto area woman had been arrested and charged on suspicion of firing a pellet gun at Pokemon Go players assembled near her home. The woman, Patricia Champagne, allegedly fired at least 4 shots from the rooftop of a home north of Toronto. No injuries were reported. I can say this since nobody got hurt, but she definitely fired on them like they were little zombies. She pulls out a full airsoft AK, bandana on the forehead and everything, and just starts unleashing. As a joke, for legal reasons, that's a joke. It's all alleged because I'm not getting sued. If somehow the old bag finds me, I don't know what to say there. Though despite everything, while there are some people who tried to lure children and were luckily stopped, there was one thing that brought fast action. Across the United States, Pokemon Go was noted as bringing children within the reach of sex offenders. In Arizona, a Pokestop was located at a hotel that turned out to be a halfway house that was home to 43 sex offenders. In Indiana, a registered sex offender was arrested for playing the game with a 16-year-old boy on the lawn of the courthouse. In California, Pokemon Go led children to the Sunny Acres Sober Living Facility, which is also home to a number of released sex offenders. Fortunately, no one has been hurt so far, but what would prevent sex offenders from purchasing the lures to attract unsuspecting victims to isolated Pokestops or even their home? The state of New York isn't waiting to find out. Governor Andrew Cuomo announced on that August 1st that as part of their sentence, sex offenders on parole will no longer be able to sign up for Pokemon Go or other internet-enabled games. New York State already bans offenders on parole from social media and has agreements with 40 social media and related companies to share weekly sex offender registry updates. This ultimately did result in a successful targeted restriction of sex offenders from downloading the game, at least within the state of New York from what I could find. Other states looked like they were working on that, but I couldn't find anything concrete. Now, one of the other major reasons I wanted to go down this rabbit hole and see all the different scenarios was through remembering in a members-only video that Niantic sold the geographical data, and I was partially right. In March, Niantic made a bombshell announcement. The developer of Pokemon Go, once the biggest mobile game ever in the US, is abandoning games to go all in on AI. I don't need to say anything. People should know my opinion on that. It has sold off its game development business to Saudi-owned game maker Scopely in a $3.5 billion deal and rebranded itself as Niantic Spatial. Instead of building augmented reality games for mobile phones, it will develop artificial intelligence models that analyze the real world for enterprise clients. From the start, Pokemon Go was a runaway hit, generating around $8 billion in revenue since its debut in 2016, analysts estimate. Almost a decade later, the game, which asks players to catch virtual Pokemon by trekking to real-world locations, racked up 100 million players in 2024, Niantic said. The company brought in $1 billion in revenue last year, or at least when this article was written, with 30 million monthly players across its catalog, which also includes Pikmin Bloom, a step counter game developed with Nintendo, and Monster Hunter Now, developed with Capcom. Niantic doesn't break out revenue for individual games, but the vast majority came from Pokemon Go, according to research firm Aldora Intelligence. It was responsible for $770 million of Niantic's billion-dollar haul in 2024, the firm estimated. They effectively sold off something that made ridiculous amounts of money for something that sounds like it's just going to be generative AI, which, again, if you want to use regular AI, it's used in your video games. It's used in math equations sometimes, right? There is AI out there that is used. It's fine. It's been around for a long time. It's when you get into the generative AI that is just guzzling water, destroying the environment, and so much more, then we have a problem. Generative AI is a massive issue, especially as we look at this situation where 30 billion images and 20 million locations have been sold off, all licensed for use in training spatial data, which they also kept for themselves. The biggest reason for the split, Niantic executives say, is focus. Inside the company, there has always been competition for time and resources between the game development side and technology side, which developed all of the augmented reality and mapping tools that underpin the games. The latter, for example, built Niantic's visual positioning system, which could precisely pinpoint a person's exact location at a specific date and time, like if you caught a Squirtle at Grand Central Terminal at noon. Its technology portfolio also includes Scaniverse, an app Niantic acquired in 2021 that lets a user create a 3D model of a room by scanning it with their phone, similar to how you'd take a panoramic photo. There's a lot of questioning going on regarding this decision. Selling off this precise data is something that makes many people afraid, wary, scared, and even more so when we look at the historical location data like I just mentioned. Places where people had been tracked to walk around, frequent often, and more, down to the minutes, if not seconds, I would even say. It's some of the most useful data in a day and age when you look at foot traffic, best locations for businesses to be placed for the best amount of revenue, mass groups of people and where they move or gather, you name it, for good and for bad. So at the end of the day, you might be asking, should I play Pokemon Go? Should my child play? And the answer is this. Pokemon Go itself, I would like to claim, is a safe app to my understanding. These situations are partially unavoidable when you step out into the scary outer net or use any app. I mean, I think I have an insurance app that's like, oh yeah, if you let us track how you're driving, we give you discounts. Well, and even if they're not tracking, it's in your phone anyway. You know what I mean? So no matter what you do, when you go outside, when you finally decide to, wash your filthy body and touch grass, you're gonna run into these things no matter what. The positive thing is this. When out and about, most people looking to play Pokemon Go and walk around do move in a group, which is genuinely one of the safest things that you can do. Sure, there have been some fistfights with large groups. I think there was one where it's like 40 people just clocking at each other. But have you seen what happens on a Black Friday in America? It's just stupid humans doing stupid human things. Anytime you're in public walking around, I highly recommend you let someone know where you are going if you go alone. Maybe learn some self-defense while you're at it. Everyone should know how to protect themselves. And it's never a bad thing to go on walks or enjoy public spaces with a friend or a loved one. This was a vastly different video than usual, I will say, and I had a lot of fun with this. It's probably super short. Oh well. I wouldn't mind doing dives like this more often in the future, especially since while I talk about Pokemon, I'm talking more about the real world through Pokemon than Pokemon itself in videos I get most excited about. I believe I'm doing a video on extinct Pokemon or near extinct Pokemon right after this. And if you're new here and want more deep dive content like this, subscribe. There's literally hours upon hours of Pokemon content available here. Let me also know what was the most shocking thing to you and your memories of Pokemon Go, good and bad. Comments and sharing the video does a massive help towards the channel. I also want to say a big thank you to members of the channel that you see on screen. If you'd like to have early access to videos, monthly insiders, and members exclusive videos, become a member for as little as $3 a month. It goes a long way in supporting the channel, especially as I am a one-man band. Usually I just choose the best comment of the last week to talk about, but this is a little different, a little bit more interesting, where you guys have shared stories, or at least two people shared stories. One of them is from Iwatobi, who states, I don't know if it's a crime, but in the early days of Pokemon Go, as I was standing at a Pokestop, a car slowed down suddenly near me. As I looked up, another car promptly smacked into their car. I think he slowed down in the middle of a 45-mile-per-hour road to get the Pokestop. I left, but passed him as I walked back home, and he walked away from his car to get to the other Pokestops. There was also a park that people would flock to in the middle of the night to catch Pokemon, including herself. I smacked a can, which is crazy because it's in the hood, and we know the police routinely find bodies in it. And we were all out there at like midnight without a care in the world. That's what Pokemon does to people. You just become so happy you forget murder even exists, that you can actually die. Though from another one, I have Pokemon Pedigree, who stated, I watched a man stop walking, take a gym from me, then promptly get stabbed by a random dude that just came running up out of nowhere. I ended up calling EMS for the guy, who survived. I did take the gym back almost immediately after. Yeah, this is my payment. I saved your life, I take the gym, don't come back. Also, I don't think anyone would come back after getting stabbed at the gym. That comment itself, that was the first comment that was on the post where I sat down and said, hey, do you guys want me doing this? And whatever views this video gets, I wanted to do it for myself anyway. That was the sign that I needed to do this, and I hope you guys enjoyed this overall. But with that then, as always, don't do anything I want to do. Don't do anything I would do. Please be nice to each other. I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!